Welcome to Small Venue Music. Our podcast showcases the amazing local musicians and incredible small music venues right here in Richmond, Virginia. Join us each episode as we talk to musicians, venue owners, and even fans to help everyone get a better understanding of what makes our local music scene so special. Whether you're a musician, a fan of music, or just curious about the local music scene, we think you'll really enjoy the show. In this episode of Small Venue Music, we'll be welcoming the Jangling Reinharts, who will be sitting down for a conversation with us and for the first time performing one of their songs live on the show. The Jangling Reinharts are icons of the Richmond music scene. For the past 20 years, they've played thousands of shows and entertained tens of thousands of fans up and down the East Coast. The Reinharts perform an extremely wide variety of songs and are made up of some of the most accomplished musicians in the city. They are true entertainers and are known to put on some of the most enjoyable shows in town. Joining us for today's podcast will be both Rick Schaffer and Tommy Hughes, and today's show will be hosted by Don Busick. We hope you enjoy the show. All right, let's get started. Hey, welcome, Rick and Tommy. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys joining me for the show. You know, when you first, when the Jangling Reinharts, I've seen your summer schedule and I know how busy you guys are. So it means a lot to me that you're willing to take some time out of the busy summer tour schedule, it seems like, to make some time to join the podcast. So I really appreciate it. For me, this is a little like having Richmond music royalty on the show. So I really appreciate it. So thanks for doing this.
Thank you. I think you have us confused with another band. But no, this is a thrill for us to be here, honestly. I'm glad it worked out for all of our schedules to put this together.
Great. Well, thanks.
What you're doing. Yeah.
Thanks for doing it. Yeah. And you know, when Tommy and I were texting and then he contacted you, Rick, I admit when you guys first agreed to be on the show, I had a brief moment of panic because you guys have such a deep, long, rich experience in music that I actually got a little nervous about where to even start the conversation because there is so much we could talk about and so many different directions we can go. So what I thought might make sense is, Rick, if I could ask you to probably start with the origin and sort of the journey of the Jangling Reinharts. Sure. Like, how did it begin? And maybe take us on a little journey of how you got to the current lineup that you have.
Right. It's I'll try to give you the condensed version, but so I've been playing in another band, BS&M, since like the late 80s.
Yeah.
And then that band was kind of transitioning, or I was transitioning. And anyways, so just wanted to do some things on the side in addition. And at the time, my friend Buster Bohannon, who was also in BS&M, he and I went off and we started every Monday night at the Fox and Hound in Midlothian. And it was like, and we just played every Monday night. Kyle Davis came in and we just had this kind of, wasn't quite an open mic, but it was just like any musician, anybody was in the area, let's just come and do some cool music together. And we kind of went down this Americana route and bands like the Jayhawks and Wilco and at the time Whiskey Town and you know, that kind of stuff. And we just kept it going. And then maybe a lot of it was my own personal schedule with having kids and stuff like that, which I'd had all throughout the band. And I wanted maybe a little bit more control out of my own schedule and maybe didn't want to be as busy.
Yeah. So
just kind of stayed in this lane and just kind of pulled back a little bit from that. And you know, we've still, you know, my old guys from BSN, we've done some shows since recently. But anyway, so we went, and that was probably about in 98 is when we first did our first show. Came up with the name, the Jangling Reinharts, on a trip to Emerald Isle. Had 5 hours of just notebook name after name. Star Bacon. I still like Star Bacon, so I'm going back to that. Anybody on the podcast, don't use Star Bacon. I've got it. I'm gonna have it pretty much. But anyway, and you know, it wasn't like because we did gypsy jazz, but we liked the jangle pop, you know, REM and the Byrds and bands like that, and a kind of electric 12-string sound or acoustic 12-string, which I had neither of. But I love the thought of having that. And so we're just going thinking, the Jangling Reinharts, that'll be great. It's like, yeah, that sounds good. The bottom line is we just started printing things that said that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that became the name of the band. And then in retrospect, I was like, probably wasn't the best name. We get called so many things. It gets spelled so many ways, like my name's Schaffer, so I'm used to that. But people actually hired us because they thought we were a jazz band, and they still liked us.
It's funny band names because
you never like the band name when you first create
Yeah,
it, but then everyone starts to know it, and
Yeah.
I like the name now.
Yeah, exactly. And then Danny Fisher, who is also in BS&M, our drummer.
Yeah.
We had this concept, kind of like what Southern Culture was doing with the stand-up drummer playing a kind of a cocktail kit or something like that. So just be Buster electric, me acoustic. Both of it's kind of comp and bass, a little bit here and there. Danny's stand-up kit, and that was kind of that's really all the vision we had. And eventually we said, let's get some more people involved. And we got our buddy Chris Lowry, who had been in multiple bands and had also been in BSN. I think poached everybody from BSN now I think about it. Sorry, Dave. And so Chris being a he played bass.
Yeah.
But then he played lead guitar sometimes and sang. And so we just got to the point where we're all just switching instruments. And that was the band for a while, and then Chris had to move on. He had to make a little bit of money, so got a nicer job, which limited him. Then we got Tommy's brother Mike, who had been in the Ernies, Mike Hughes, and Mike. That was about 2003, and Mike had been with us until probably about 2018, 2019, where he had to pull back, and Tommy kind of came in when Mike had to pull back and was filling in on bass, and then Buster left the band right before COVID, and so Tommy goes, well, I'll just go to electric guitar, and so we needed a bass player, and that's where we got what's the guy's name?
Todd.
Todd with Todd Ellsworth, just phenomenal, all around bass player and just great guy, and also music director sometimes too. So I just look around now and, it's a Danny, Todd, Tommy, me. And I just look around at the band and say, I'm just humbled by, and my whole job is just to make sure I get everybody there on the gig on time and get their paychecks to them on Tuesday.
Nice. So Tommy, that makes you actually now a veteran in the band, given you're not the last new member.
Yeah.
But I did have a question for you, Tommy, because you also have a very long and impressive music career. I think you started off in bluegrass, if I'm not mistaken, and I saw a reference to you playing at the Grand Ole Opry. So could you tell a little bit of your story?
So it really starts when I first started playing. So picked up banjo at the age of 7 and got to play on stage with a gentleman by the name of George Wynn and the Bluegrass Partners. Had been playing for maybe 10 weeks at that point. And then fast forward about 8 years after that, I was 15, and George actually called my dad and was looking for a bass player and said, hey, does your son play bass? And my father went, yeah, he did.
Sure he does.
I didn't. So I hadn't played bass at all. So had played, guitar and banjo and that kind of thing. But anyway, I ended up playing for George for 4 years. Got to go to the Opry 4 times with him and number of different festivals. Bean Blossom was, played there, played Fanfare, which is the CMA, country music stuff now. Ended up, I had some high school friends that I played with as well, Chris Stanley and John McNeil. We kind of had an acoustic thing for a little while. And then I ended up moving to a resort called the Tides Lodge back in the day, and was playing with a gentleman by the name of Harvey Reams. And Harvey's like my second dad. So he picked me up when I was 19 and played with him for 4 or 5, 6 years, I guess. And then started with the Chris Stanley Band, which was myself, Chris Stanley, and talk about band names. So that was an easy one to come
Worked
up
out
with.
well for Chris.
Yeah. Chris was like, I don't want to be called the Chris Stanley Band. John and I actually came up with that name. And it had great musicians, Stu Grimes being one, our drummer, and Lee Covington joined us, towards the end. Play with them. So we ended in 2001 December, and I started with Pat O'Brien and the rest in January of 2002.
I saw that.
So did that for 13 years plus a couple. We played, of course, Sharky's back in the day with the house band there. And, from there, I got to work with all kinds of different musicians. So I was lucky enough. I was part of the River City Gang with my brother, who is Kyle Davis and Brian Friedman. who wrote some great stuff, and Kyle's a fantastic songwriter, singer. Got to do that with them. Did a lot of sub work, was playing with the Pat Russell band. So it was great. I was getting all this bass work, get to play. But I wanted to play guitar and other things. And Chris and I had not played for a while. So we ended up partnering together with Jane Duff Cooper, who was in The Rest with me. And it was great. We did a trio for 10 years and played all around Richmond, Northern Neck area, and that kind of thing. And Chris and I, we're like brothers. I mean, we played together so long. But during that time, my brother, of course, had to step away from the Reinharts. And Rick called me. Probably the first time was around 2017. I'm thinking something like that. And I remember playing 4 jobs with the Reinharts. And after the 4th gig, I was like, I've never played so many different songs in my lifetime.
I bet we're going to talk about that.
Oh, it's crazy, crazy. But yeah, so, and then, it really happened is Todd Ellsworth stole my bass gig and became the bass player for the Reinharts. So I think Rick felt sorry for me and let me play guitar.
All right. So that takes the whole journey. Wow. What an extensive background.
And like I said, there's so many musicians I've been able to play with over the years. There's no way I can name all of them.
His career is so storied, and I love listening to him talk. And we came back from Boone, North Carolina today, and over that 6 hours, we heard most of them probably.
This is your second time through?
Yeah. No, but I do want to say real quickly about Tommy. Not only an amazing musician, but incredibly humble man and just a good, kind soul.
Yeah.
And the first time I met him was before I even knew his brother Mike. He worked at Guitar Works, and we figured out today was around 89. 88, yeah. And when I came, I just started with BS&M, and we were kind of taking off, and I thought I was all hype fluting and stuff like that. And I'm walking in, and music starts. Hey, here's this kid, and he was working at the counter there, and just right away, just so kind. And usually, you know what it's like a lot of times, and I don't mean to disparage folks working there, but a lot of times they're jaded, and they've seen kind, humble. Incredibly, what can I do for you? And it's like, okay, I was completely just like leveled. I'm like, okay, this kid's right. And I'd have thought of him as a kid. He was probably 17. I was like, this kid's really, not knowing I would ever play with them.
Wow, you guys really do go back a ways.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Hey, speaking of, you just got back from Boone playing as a duo. One question I had is, I noticed that you play as a full band. You have various combinations of duos that you do. You play solo. I saw some reference to, what was it, the Little Known Legends? Can you give a little bit of the constellation of what are the various versions of the Reinhardt?
Sure. So the mothership is the Jangling Reinharts. And that's actually, it was the full band that went to Boone for a big 4th of July event down there. But the night before, Tommy and I, as the Little Known Legends, as a duo, we're down in Virginia Beach, and it's kind of our agency, Sam Hill Entertainment of Boston. We've also been with them since probably 98. They wanted just a different way. It was hard for them to say, well, one of their options, the Jangling Reinhardt do is just a lot.
Yeah.
Can we come up with some other name? And we're like, I don't know. Somewhere along the way, Little Known Legends came out of it.
Okay.
And so that was, I still wanted Shrunky Boy. Don't take that one either. Starbacon and Shrunky Boy are off the list. But so Little Known Legends is that duo form, and I do it a lot of times with Tommy, or once a month at rare times with Danny on drums.
Yeah,
and that's really fun because Danny just plays kick and snare, and is a great singer and great, incredibly dynamic drummer. And
so, how do you decide which version of the band is going to play? Is it size of venue, availability?
Both of those things.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, a lot of those. Tommy only gets paid $37 a gig, and there's a lot of that. He doesn't understand what everybody else is making around town, and we've tried not to let that get out. But no, I mean, that's for the most part really what it is. It's like, what are they looking for? And a lot of it really is availability and space,
So, I noticed you guys play both, a lot of both public and private gigs. Mm-hmm. Do you have a preference, or do you like one better than the other? Do you like them both? I talk to a lot of bands about this, and some shy away from the private, but some love the private because maybe it pays more. But What kind of pushes you towards one or the other?
I'll let you
Yeah.
initially.
For me, I like the public thing.
Yeah.
But I like doing, so we just played at Westchester Commons. We did Lewis Ginner. Love playing in the clubs, but also love being able to perform. In the clubs, you got to, make sure that you're doing, danceable music and, making sure you're bringing everybody in. When you do the larger performances like that, I feel we can be a little bit freer with the material that we're choosing. Going back to what I was saying earlier, I mean, this band does so many different songs and different genres and stuff, and we can go in and be ourselves. The private thing, of course, money's always great with that, but we've had some wonderful private events.
Yeah.
This Virginia Beach being one of them we were just down at, the Boone, North Carolina one. I mean, we get to meet amazing people in the private stuff. Yeah. Music wise, though, you tend to be, we still do our own thing, but you still got to, do.
And I will say early on, one of the reasons I transitioned between my band BS&M, because BS&M was doing a lot, successful doing some recording and doing a lot of the really good, listening rooms and concert halls and things like that.
Yeah.
But also that band was also transitioned to a party band because it just kind of, everybody's getting a little bit older and like, okay, we've been chasing the dream.
Yep.
Let's try to make a little bit of money at this. And so that made sense. It was fine. But I didn't quite want to go there. I wasn't ready. I didn't really want to just do weddings and stuff like that. So that was another reason. But what I didn't realize is that people liked what we were doing, the Jangling Reinharts. And I became far more busier doing weddings because people wanted a different kind of wedding band, and we offered something a little different. We still could make it very danceable, but we were playing this, like somebody said, where you guys play the songs we didn't know we needed, that kind of stuff. And I loved that.
Yeah.
All these things I wish I'd thought of that, and so, but because of that and all the different ways we play, we end up having to develop such a repertoire. Like we got invited to Turks and Caicos a couple of times during COVID and after.
Yeah.
And they wanted yacht rock. They said, we need, the client wants 3 hours of yacht rock. Can y'all do that? I'm like, yeah, sure. Well, we had 6 weeks to figure it out, and that's what we did. And, we're not three sheets or anything that really do it well, but we certainly have done a lot of the songs throughout our careers. And they also said, plus we also want some other stuff too. And we know that you guys can do that stuff. And so that's why we end up, spectrum from, Earth, Wind and Fire to Flaming Lips to, who knows what else.
The cool thing too. So doing a lot of the private events, especially weddings.
Yeah.
They set us up to learn a lot of material that we would never even thought of. So, a band called Goose that none of us were familiar with. We played a wedding. I think they wanted 6 different songs that we didn't know.
They wanted Haim.
Yeah. So Haim was another one. Billy Joel song that we had never played. I mean, there was all these different, things, but that one part of the private stuff, it does come through. It's great. I mean, I never would have found this band.
It's funny you guys bringing this up because one of the questions when I want to talk to you guys about your live shows, and one of the first questions I have is, it does seem like you guys know a billion songs. And so do you have what is the actual size of the repertoire that you think you have? Is there a rough size? And because I was wondering, how do you pick what you're going to play each show, like your set list?
So I'll let you take this, but I'm going to say this before. So when I started with these guys, I had to start making a list of all the songs. A lot of them I never even heard of, much less played. So I, at one point, had a list of probably 350 to 400 songs just of what I had put together. Okay, we played this one night, and then 6 months later, Rick will go, "Hey, let's play this song."
Not bad.
But
I'm not bad.
But he's the mastermind.
Yeah. Right now we have just thanks to kind of the push and some of the guys in the band saying, "Hey, let's link some things."
Yeah.
So we can do some quicker transitions, and I'm all about that. And so there are a few set things that we'll do now, and like when he's on a mandolin, we have a mandolin set, and we know we're going to go with Losing My Religion, then we're going to go with Feel It Still, and then we know we're going to go with Tyler Childers, then we're going to do it with our kind of weird broke down version of Advanced Marching. So those things we know, and those are good. And then a lot of it's just like, a lot of times we don't really know what we're going to play until we see what the crowd is buying into. And that allows us to go. And sometimes it's what we're feeling. It's like, I heard this song. I really would like to try it. Can you guys do it? And they'll reluctantly go, okay. Now, we also have a secret weapon in this guy named Dan Leon, which I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up, who has been a phenomenal musician, been playing in bands around town. He plays, his main thing is saxophone, flute. Incredible singer, also been playing some keyboards with us. And so when he's in the band, then it's like, these other songs come in. He's the one that can hit the falsetto on Kiss by Prince.
Yeah.
He's the one who knows the whole rap on 1 Week by Bare Naked Ladies. That we're just like, we're hanging on. And that's great. And we become like the audience for him. And then he's like, when we did, and we've always done like Land Down Under, but all of a sudden he puts the flute on. It's like, it's like a real song now. It's like that. So, it's those kind of things. Whoever's kind of in the band, everybody brings something to it. And that kind of, it affects the shape of the night, in so many ways.
Now, when we were texting, you guys told me, I think, you don't rehearse.
Sometimes, but
true?
not that much anymore.
Okay.
Because we just don't really have time. I mean, my wife still likes to have me on sometimes.
Yeah.
And we're playing a lot, and and all of us are working other jobs and then doing this, but we recognize the fun of rehearsing too.
Yeah.
And so we will go through periods where we'll get into Danny's basement and we'll lock it down and we'll get and maybe those songs will last for a while.
Yeah, because I was wondering, like, with the sheer number of songs that you all play, and then I guess you just play enough and you rotate them through.
Right. And you got sound checks. You're working stuff on.
Yeah.
In the car, you're working on stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're just doing it live on stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
It's great when Rick will go, it goes like this. Do, 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 do.
So you brought up something I wanted to ask you about, which is linked songs. And I first want to ask you about the Space Trilogy.
And our math.
And so my first question was, if I wasn't mistaken, there may be 4 songs in the Space Trilogy.
4 songs.
Okay, and then I Googled this, and it's just my value add to the band. There is such a thing called a tetralogy or a quadrilogy. So if you want to work that in, you that's my gift to you all.
That's actually really good.
Yeah, so I figured that might somehow make it in at some point.
You're going to start hearing that.
There you go. I also had another question, and this may put some drama in the band, but and it's probably for you, Tommy, which is, do you ever get bitter? Because one thing I noticed, and when we release this, I'll show a picture of the helmets that Rick and Danny wear are awesome, and what you and Todd wear, not so much.
Yeah, they're
how does
not.
this come to be, and how do you feel about it?
It depends on what picture that you have, because there's some fine words I've heard people tell me what I look like in that hat.
Space Chimp.
Space Chimp. There's been some worse things.
Can I at least tell you what I thought when I saw
Go
it?
ahead.
Because I was like, I did a double take. I'm like, clearly this is the Space Trilogy. These two are wearing hats, but I thought for a second that maybe Rick had gotten the 2 sharks that were next to Katy Perry in the Super Bowl and cut the heads off the costumes and made you 2 wear them, just as like new guy initiation into the Reinharts. And I actually walked up on like close to the stage just to make sure it was actually a
It has like a NASA thing, I think.
I think it did on this side.
I'm buying my own helmet. I'm just saying now. So the ones that we have that we wear today, much better than the last thing that they stuck me with, which was this silver hat, the same kind of shape type of thing. I took it off after the first gig, and I had silver glitter around my face, all over my forehead, and they just busted out laughing. I'm like, what? I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
But
Nice. Now, do you guys play the same space songs every time?
Yeah, right now. I mean, and we've got some other suggestions. People are great about saying, "We put a song on." That's a great idea.
So I create little clips from these things. So I may put one out there and have the audience suggest.
I'd love that. Yeah.
Space songs. If you guys would be up for that.
That's what we need is more homework. So thank you for that. Yeah,
you're welcome.
Yeah.
learn another song.
Again, lots of gifts.
Way to gig.
The other question I had is about your medley. Or medleys. I got to tell you, for folks who haven't had a chance to see you, the way you all seamlessly transition between songs and make it look so effortless, and then loop back around to kind of close out the same song you started
That's
with.
a fun medley. Yeah.
Like, I saw you all at Westchester Commons, and I want to say it was "Living on a Prayer," the Bon Jovi song. That was kind of the bookends of it, and then you had these series of really good hits from the '80s, and it's amazing. Like, I love it. It's so entertaining. And my question for you is, do you have sort of multiple medleys that you pull from that you've organized, or is it like you kind of just have one that you do and you swap songs in and out? Like, how does that come to be?
We've had other medleys. In this particular one, which we just call the Bon Jovi one, it's for the most part the same. Though there was a point before we went into, maybe I think we do Relax at the end of this one now.
Yep.
We would go into Havana Kilo. just for no reason except it sounds similar.
Yeah.
And people loved it. But we did have one bride who finally said, "We're not Jewish." I'm like, "I know, but that's not really why we're doing it." But it did make us think a little bit, okay, I don't ever want to offend anybody with music at all. We're incredibly appreciative of cultures and things like that. So, and we end up having to do that song a lot anyway on its own. So we just kind of pull that. So we switched that out, but we always hear songs like, "Oh, we should tag this one on to that." And then it's one of those things we think about it, and it takes the process. We're very corporate that way. It's like somebody has an idea, but it might take 10 months to go through this thing. We're like, yeah, remember? Oh, yeah, that's right. Let's do that now.
We did do the Guns N' Roses at that one wedding. Remember that?
Right.
You tacked that on.
Yeah. But we used to have we had a magic carpet ride into Franz Ferdinand, into Freebird, that kind of thing. Wearing full-on masks. I mean, the whole band's wearing different masks, like Horsehead or Superhero or Batman or Sleestack.
Squirrel.
I
got stuck with that.
And I got really, and honestly, and I will harken back to my BS&M days. It was funny in BS&M. We were young, learning. I was still learning my instrument and learning how to perform. And one of the things that, we came upon, we got to learn how to play without looking at our fingers. Yeah. And I did that a lot. Now, I do make mistakes a lot, but wearing a mask, you don't have an option. You have to do it. And so that really has helped. And it's kind of, it's solidified it a little bit.
It's funny because I was thinking about you guys with the masks on and just like, I'm a little bit of a cheater sometimes. And also how hot it must have been.
It does get hot.
Oh, wow.
It does get hot.
My brother sat in with us. We played down in South Hill at Cahill's.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago. He had the helmet. He put the helmet on backwards, so he couldn't see anything.
The whole time.
The whole time. So, and never missed it.
Was it Rick's helmet or your helmet?
No, it was Rick's.
The real helmet.
It was the real helmet.
The good-looking one.
And you couldn't see.
But it was turned completely back
around. Wow. Your brother must be a good musician.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah. Now, hey, one thing I've noticed about the band is everybody has a good voice. And you guys are such great singers and such great harmonizers. Like, it really comes through. And I know, Rick, you are mostly the lead singer, and I think occasionally Danny will sing a song. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Danny will sing a few.
Yeah.
Yep. Some nights he'll sing a lot more. Yeah.
I was going to ask, Tommy, do you or Todd ever sing lead? Or
occasionally. So I stopped singing lead after I did a few songs with the rest. I used to do quite a bit with Out on a Limb. I like doing more of the harmony stuff.
Yeah.
And my voice over the years is not back early days, Chris Stanley band days, I used to sing quite a bit, and my voice was a bit higher than what it is today.
Happens to everybody.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we just did one Saturday. I don't even know what day it is anymore. No. Yesterday.
Long ride.
So, yes. Yesterday. So a song that I'll probably start bringing in, and I'll occasionally do a couple.
And same with Todd.
Todd, same way.
Yeah, there's a few that Todd is, bringing in, like, and it's some modern English and stuff like that. And then we had done this. There was a point where we did this whole kind of British invasion set.
Yeah.
And we wore Beatles outfits and stuff like that. And we all sang a lot more on that one too. It's just one of those things, like, after a while you forget about the songs and then you're like, and one day you hear it on the radio, I was like, oh, that's why we used to do that. We used to do a great version of that song, and then you're, and I will say, and I'll take responsibility for this, is that we don't have a set list. It's in my head, and that's good, probably mostly bad, but it's good and bad. And so a lot of times I'm thinking on the fly, like while I'm singing, what's the next song? What instrument is he playing? So the transitions can be the state. If he's on mandolin, can he stay on mandolin?
Yeah.
If he's on banjo, is he going to be on banjo? And then is Danny singing this one? What's a good song for Danny to sing right now? And a lot of times I think of a great song for Danny to sing, but it's not the time. And then later I'll forget, and that's just part of lack of preparation. So I'll take ownership.
By the way, it's got to be nice.
Yeah.
Well, just my observation. It's like it's rare you see a band where everybody's got a good voice.
But yeah, I'm blessed. These guys are just it's amazing. And then not only that, but it's just, as you know, being in a band, because your band is phenomenal. Saw you guys over the weekend, and I think the most important thing, obviously, everybody's got to be able to play, sing, show up on time, but you got to get along.
Yeah.
And there's no attitudes. I mean, that's what they probably have completely different version of it, but I see no attitudes. I mean, I just feel blessed to.
We're going to unveil the other podcast we did before, the interventional one. Yeah.
I just feel blessed to be with these guys. They work hard. They learn the material. They have great suggestions. We treat, and there's criticism, but for the most part, we all take it. No musician wants to be criticized, but we all take it fairly well, I think, and we do listen. Maybe not in the moment, but we do listen and come back and say that's a good point. Let's do that.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I was not familiar with a lot of the songs, so these guys have been extremely generous with me on stage because they'll call a song I've just never heard of.
Yeah.
And I'll play what I think it should be, or and sometimes Rick will go, "That's great," or his line usually is, "Oh, you'll be fine." So, but there is no judgment, which is great.
Tommy, this brings me to another topic because if I counted them all up, you play bass, banjo, mandolin, and guitar. And I know from seeing your show that Rick has a perspective on what maybe you're good at. You're fair at an average. Did I get the words right?
Yeah, but we added one more on the trip back today.
Oh, did we?
All right, so I'll set the record straight.
Yeah.
What's out there for everybody in the Richmond and the surrounding counties to understand. Tommy Hughes, right here, this guy right here, he's an amazing bass player.
Yeah.
He's a good guitar player. He's a fair mandolin player, and he's an average banjo player. Yeah. And that's kind of the way he sells it. And that's I might be pumping you up a little bit too much.
So I may not agree with Rick here, but I will just tell you from seeing the last show that you guys played, at least in Richmond, I think you actually played slide guitar too, and on some song on your Telecaster. And when you pulled it out, I had this moment where I was like, "Is there anything this guy can't do?"
A lot.
And I'm sure every other musician around was watching, going, "Ugh." And I was curious. How do you actually think of yourself? Are you a bass player that plays the banjo? Are you a guitar player that plays the mandolin? Or do you just feel like you're a musician and you're...
The bass was kind of my home for 30 years of playing music. So it's hard to not think of myself as a bass player.
Yeah.
However, the last probably 5 years for me, I mentioned Out on a Limb. I really started that group for the ability to play guitar, because I played a couple of songs in the rest. I played a couple of songs in when I used to do the resort stuff, but I never got to really hone in that skill. And the last few years of I feel like I'm becoming a guitar player. I started on banjo. I wish I had studied it a lot more than what I did. I mean, there's some fine banjo players around town. Mandolin, I'm starting to feel my own on that.
I guess with all instruments, there's always somebody better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and just for the record, he's actually excellent at everything.
I know
that's the stage rap, and I'm not going to move away from that. But I don't think nobody's really watching this.
Yeah,
he's freaking amazing at everything. Yeah, he really is. I mean, to the point, I'm literally humbled.
Yeah,
because like you said, he doesn't know a lot of this. He hasn't not. We grew up. He kind of went on this bluegrass side so he was honing his teeth on that. Where I'm back in my old band, we're doing shows with like the Connells and stuff like that, and we really love that college rock, and so Connells is still a fun band to do, and a lot of people really love it, and he never heard it, and yet and it doesn't take him but a minute, he can listen to it. but then he can internalize it. And then he's hitting the notes, but he's got the sound, and he's just got, I mean, all the little nuances. Or he'll take a song that we left, and he goes, what if I put banjo on this? Like, we'll do a Partridge Family song, and he does it with banjo. And it's like, it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Or the Dave Matthews song, that Ants March, and we learned, and we're like, okay, well, we don't have the fiddle. We don't have all these, we don't have Dave. We don't have Carter, but we've got Danny on a kick snare doing the Carter Beaufort part. Todd's a phenomenal. He's going to play phenomenally with his bass all the time. But then he says, well, let's try with mandolin, because then the expectations changed a little bit from people.
Yep.
And it was the perfect thing. And so instead of sax, I'll play harp, on that. And all of a sudden we're creating the vibe of the song, but we've completely mixed up, the instrumentation. And that's where his genius is as well, is he'll sell something in that way. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that,
Yeah, it is one of the things I love about your band is you take certain songs I've heard a ton of times and you do a completely different version. Like the Ants Marching one was great. I didn't know what to expect.
Because I don't know it.
Well, constraints. Also, when you were describing his banjo playing skill, and then you played the Avett Brothers song, I think it's "Live and Die," and I was like, "Oh, that was really good."
Yeah.
So
I'm a great band.
Hey, Rick, a question for you. You obviously, well, I think you have a great voice and an incredible stage presence. But I don't know if you're aware of this, but you are really, really funny. And
when I sing.
No. And by the way, and Danny is too, from what I've seen. And the interplay that you two have, it's when I've described you guys to other people, I'm like, hey, it's like a bunch of great musicians. They play amazing music, but it's also like a variety show at some point too.
It's vaudeville.
Yeah. It's really entertaining. And I was curious, how much of that do you plan out? How much just comes from years of playing together and kind of sort of
I'd say more of the latter. You know. Danny is incredibly dry-witted, and he is the wordsmith. I mean, I can't share the text stuff that comes through, but we're just done. I mean, he should probably be writing for the New York Post, doing the headlines, for when somebody passes or something. He's got the perfect little quip. But half of it's just trying to keep up with him, for one thing. But no, there's nothing really, we'll just think of something and just say it. And a lot of it's just because I'm still buying time because I'm not sure what song we're going to do next. Or he's switching instruments and we have to kill some time.
Yeah.
But no, it's not really.
Well, I'm sure you've seen it, Tommy, because there's something about comedy that it's all about timing. And
yeah.
You and Danny have it. I don't know what to say. Like I find myself like people ought to be quiet and listen because that's damn funny.
So when I first started playing with them,
Yeah.
It was a point people were coming out and seeing the group just to see what he was going to say or do, or find out how he was going to make it so that I didn't know the next song that we were doing. That was a
challenge for
that was he would just turn around and go, okay, we're going to play this, and then, or I'm not going to tell him, he would use that line a few times as well.
Hey, I was wondering if you could spend a little time talking about the other two guys in the band, since they're not here. Tell me a little bit about them and why you love playing with them.
Well, Todd Ellsworth with Wendy. We are actually trying to do a GoFundMe and try to get that other D for him, for Todd. So anybody out there,
it took me a second.
Yeah, that would be great. Todd is just, he's amazing. In fact, this weekend he's going to be playing with Steve Bassett. He's just like, he's that sought after. And I spent 17, 18 years in Nashville, kind of in the scene, producing stuff, working, raising a family. But he was in the studios. He was playing with a lot of different bands. He got a chance to play with people, produce some people. It did a lot of arranging. He still does that. His knowledge, and he does teach music through the day. That's kind of his day job. But he teaches piano. He teaches guitar. He's incredibly thoughtful. So we'll talk about doing a song, and and we're at work, and then you realize Todd's working too, because he'll send you a video of him breaking down the parts on piano or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just such a joy to think about somebody. And that's, again, I'm humbled, somebody of his caliber spending the time and the thought to take things that we're saying seriously and put the time in it. But prior to that, he was in some great bands, the Venture Rays, the Diggity Dudes. He was in the kids band, the Diggity Dudes. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Which to me is still one of the best ideas, one of the best bands in Richmond. And then, a bunch of bands. He's from Arlington, Virginia, but he, right after school and went to Tech. I have to say that he went to Tech. He went, after a while, he said, I got to go to Nashville, and followed his wife there in Nashville. And he's just the consummate, constantly digging, constantly uncovering music. And it's just being with him, I've just learned so much, and we butt heads a lot because I'll think I knew the right music answer or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'll finally say, dude, it is a G minor. I'll go back, it's like, but there's these moments, and I get these moments where I was right. Yeah. And I live on that for like a month, and then, so that's Todd. And Danny, of course, I've been with him since the BS&M days in the mid-90s. And I knew him even before that, before I was playing music and he was playing music in the 80s. There were these bands that we would pile around. We were on this kind of group of people, and Danny had a lot of hair there, so it took me a while to recognize him when he came back. But he is probably, he works incredibly hard, in his day job, but he's always also thinking about shtick and songs and song ideas. And, there's a time where we would wear a lot of, masks and things like that. And he'd have ideas about, hey, let's do this. And just, but his drumming is what gets me, is that we are, I forget half the time he doesn't have we do get him to bring some toms from time to time. But for the most part, he's kick snare. Yeah. And the way his interplay with those two instruments, and the what he does with the sticks and what sticks he allows to play and Alexa play, and how he decides to play side stick or the side of the whatever, I completely forget. I'm just absorbed in the song, and I realize he's back there with just, that's all he's got. Yeah. And he's singing and he's making the quips and stuff like that. He's probably more, in many ways, the heart of the continued, the fact that we've been able to stay together since like 98. But I also would be remiss if I didn't. There was times where he can't be there because he's got family obligations and work and stuff like that. We've had this Greg Handicus as our, I don't even want to call him a backup drummer. He's our other drummer. Yeah. And he's been with us around early 2000s, since you come out and see us at Fox and Hound. Yeah. And he played with us yesterday. And he'll go through periods where he hasn't played with us in maybe 6 months or sometimes even longer. And I forget. I'll just start calling songs and realize, there's songs that we haven't done with him yet. Oh, right. But he's got also, like everybody else, just got this great attitude. And he plays in a lot of other bands around town, like Big Daddy.
Big Boss.
Big Boss Man. It's not Big Daddy anymore, is he?
No.
He never was, really. No. He was in the sequels for a bit. But another phenomenal guy, another good singer, and just a great guy to hang with. And so we're lucky that, again, these people are phenomenal musicians, but they're all a good hang too. Yeah. They really are.
I do have to add, but Todd and Danny. Yeah. So I was joking earlier. I lost the bass gig with the Reinharts to Todd. I actually had hired Todd to play in Out on a Limb, and he came in and played acoustic bass on a number of shows with us. Before I ever even knew about him, joining the Reinharts. He's just a fantastic player. I mean, his ear is incredible. He, like Rick said, he can hear parts, and he does that. He'll send us exactly what these parts are. He'll sit down and break it out, like Rick was saying. But the thing I wanted to say about Danny as a bass player and coming in, there's nothing more important than the rhythm section. Mm-hmm. And those two guys together are incredible. I played with some phenomenal drummers over the year. When I walked in and saw the guy had a kick drum, a snare, a hi-hat, and a cymbal, I'm like, oh no, what is this going to be like? And never, ever did I go, I missed that tom, or I missed that hit. He's just magical with it. It's incredible. And plus he sings his tail off.
He's a great singer, and you two together are amazing. I've seen you as a duo, and I'm like, wow, there's like a wall of sound for just coming out of two guys.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I've never done on the show, believe it or not, is have someone play actual live music. So would you guys be open to maybe playing one of your songs?
It'd be an honor. It definitely would be an honor. Yeah.
Maybe tell us a little bit what you're going to play.
Sure. This song is called Smile. And I wrote the song a while back. I was on a long walk in the neighborhood where I lived when my kids were a little bit younger. And a lot of the words just started coming out to me. A lot of it was for my wife at the time. She's still my wife, but that's what it was. But that's what at the time it was. That's where it was. It was kind of, I was thinking about that, but I was stuck and I could never think of a second verse. And then I remembered this poem that I read in high school by James Dickey, who wrote Deliverance. The novel that became the Burt Reynolds book and all that. Oh, go back to banjo, dueling banjos, which came in anyway. And he told this story. Well, it's in the song. You'll hear it a little bit, but that's the second verse came from this poem that he wrote called Falling, which is based on a true story. And so that, for whatever reason, aside, was what the second verse needed in this song. So anyway, that's why it's called Smile.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing it.
Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4.
There's one who needs you. Sleep out in the stars tonight and hook your arms on Saturn's rings. You'll see that the earth looks alright. When your problems get you down, just reach for the sky, keep your feet on the ground. Well, it's where you're from, and it's where we're bound. Now shut your eyes, you'll see home again. There's more I want to say to you. Won't you rest your head a while and let the day just drift on by? And can't you see, I'm just trying to raise a smile. Now if you fell from the sky and had time to plan, would you aim for the water or try to hit land? Or just get naked, falling light in the sand? Well, either way, this all seems so out of hand. Oh, when these problems get you down, just reach for the sky, keep your feet on the ground. It's where you're from, and it's where we're bound. Now shut your eyes, you'll be home again. More I want to say to you. Won't you rest your head a while? Let the day just drift on by. And can't you see, I'm just trying to raise a smile. Na 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 na. Say to you, won't you rest your head a while? Let the day just drift on by. And can't you see, I'm just trying to raise a smile. Can't you see, I'm just trying to raise a smile. Can't you see, I'm just trying to raise a smile. That's it.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Wow, guys, that was incredible. Thanks so much for doing that.
Thanks, man.
It's really good.
Thanks for letting us.
People are going to love that. All right, where to go from here? Yeah. I don't often ask bands like, do you all like each other? But you can usually tell. Like, the way I see you guys on stage, I'm like, oh, you must really get along or like enjoy. Because like the interplay, yeah,
right now,
maybe not somewhere in the future.
Exactly.
Too many car rides. We'll see. But it shows through in the way you guys play and the interactions that you have on stage.
I think you have to have that to be a successful group. And like I've played in other bands that I didn't last in, very short periods. And I've seen bands come and go. And typically it's because they don't have that, hardcore friendship, and even for me, the opportunity to even get to play with my brother these days is a big thing because we are pretty big separation in age, just 7 years difference. So, even when he comes in, you could tell the love that these Danny and Rick have for him is just, it's amazing.
It makes the whole band a lot younger when he comes. His energy level.
The sound of the band, even with him, it doesn't change. It's different, but it's amazing, and it's just because of what they had together too.
Yeah, when Mike comes, also the load in and load out is so much easier because he's like this hardest working. All the Hughes boys are incredibly hardworking. But Mike is like a little machine. He's like loaded everything in and out.
You just got to watch him. He'll break something.
Hey, it's almost time for us to wrap it up, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I always love to give bands the opportunity to promote some of their upcoming shows. So is there anything, if you kind of look out maybe a couple of weeks, anything on the schedule that you'd want to sell, particularly for people in Richmond, to mention where you're playing?
Yeah, there's a kid down the street, Dennis Richards, is going to have a lemonade stand, so we thought we'd play for that next week.
You guys have really made it.
Yeah. We're this weekend we've got. I mean, it'll be this weekend. We're going to have some fun. We're kind of local. We're at Midnight Brewery this coming weekend, which is Friday, with his brother. We're going to be at Cape Charles following Saturday for their big Central Park concert series. What else do we have coming up? That's kind of all I got off the top of my head.
Well, you can always go to their Facebook page and find it there. So it's kind of, they all start to run together after a little bit. Yes. But I know JJ's is coming up. County Seat in August, which is right around the corner from my house. I get to play close to where I live for a change, not drive an hour. So
Tommy's in Powhatan, and as Danny said, every gig Tommy plays is out of town.
But that'll be a fun little show too.
Yeah, that's great. No, the 19th. That's August 19th at the county.
August 19th. Yeah.
Well, hey guys, I can't thank you enough for being on this show.
We love what you're doing. This is we've enjoyed watching the ones prior to us. This one we won't really watch, but we watch the other ones following this one. Yeah.
But hey, I think I only have bands on that I really love, and the thing I'll say about you guys first. The incredible breadth of music that you guys play is just amazing. Different genres, the quality of the musicianship, but also, we talked about it earlier, the way you guys interact on stage. Like it's flat out just fun to watch. And so for anybody who's watching that might be thinking about booking a private event, you are such an amazing band for that because of the versatility and the entertainment. But also if you're just looking for a fun night out, just to go out and see a show at a public venue, you guys, look no further than the Jangling Reinharts. Like, you guys are great, and I can't thank you enough for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Please like or subscribe to our podcast to be notified of each new episode, and follow us on all of our social media channels. If you are a local Richmond band or venue owner and you'd like to be featured on the show, please feel free to send us an email at smallvenuemusic@gmail.com. We'd love feedback on each episode, so please leave a comment to let us know how we're doing. Thanks again for listening.